What is going on to all of my movie fans, my horror fans, my Scream fans? Elliot here with MovieFiles. I am going to head into my 6:30 on my own dime, on my own time screening of Scream 7. There were no early press screenings out here in St. Louis, which is fine. So, look, man, in the last 24 hours, the people that did get to see it early, I've seen some of the conversations, the reviews. I haven't read them all, but it's been pretty negative. I'll just say that. Some are warranted. Some of it feels pretty much like you can tell people went in not wanting to like the film for their own personal reasons. But I'm just telling you all now, I'm a lifelong fan of this franchise, but it doesn't mean I'm blind to the negatives, the criticism that I have with individual films and, certain things that are going on with the franchise. The last 3 installments have not been controversy-free, starting with Scream 5. There's a lot of people upset that Neve Campbell wasn't the lead of the first Scream film in the first time in its history. And, of course, bringing in Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega's character. Scream 6 came with Neve Campbell not getting paid and not coming back. And then, of course, Scream 7 comes with Melissa Barrera and everything that went on with that and Jenna Ortega leaving the project. So it's been an interesting roller coaster, these last 3 films. But I say all that to say I have been pretty good at doing this. Whatever my personal beliefs are, how I feel about certain things, I leave that at the front door and I just go in to enjoy the film. And that goes for both sides. Both me not really allowing outside influences to affect my viewing experience, but at the same time, I'm not going to allow my fandom of this franchise to have me forget the negatives, right? So I'm going to be honest with you all, as I always am. I'm going into this hoping to have fun, right? 3 things I always look for in a Scream film: a good opener, good kills, and a good reveal, as far as when it comes to the Ghostface, or Ghostface is plural. So as long as I can get those 3 things, I'm pretty satisfied. But if I can get a really good story, some really great new characters, as well as the old characters we know are coming back. So when you all see me again, I'm going to give you my honest, spoiler-free thoughts about Scream 7. So I'll see you all on the other side. And we are back. It is a little past 9 o'clock. I just got out of my screening of Scream 7. If you are at this point in the video, you saw my opening talking about my fandom, how I'm going to leave the controversy out the door, how I've heard the negative buzz around this film. We're going to get into all that. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it the worst in the franchise? Best in the franchise? We're going to get into all that here in the spoiler-free review. Before we do, if you can all do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up, hype up this video, share the video, but more importantly, leave your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you're a fan of this franchise. Whether you love this film, hate this film, you're indifferent, let me know. Let's have a conversation, and consider subscribing to the channel as well. But let's get into this, man. I wanted to start off by saying this, and I normally don't like to bring up other people's opinions on films that I either like or dislike, but I just feel like I want to just say this because I wanted to double check. So as of right now, as I'm recording this, Scream 7, the most recent one that I just got out of seeing, that you're watching my review on, is right now, Rotten Tomato has it as the lowest rated film in the franchise. Right? Like a score below Scream 3, which I personally think, even after seeing this, is the worst in the franchise, but another conversation, ranking for another day. I'm here to tell y'all, first thing I want to say, this is not the worst film in the franchise. It actually baffles me that people and listen, I love that I'm a critic, professional critic. I respect a lot of my peers, but I just got to say, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of my peers, a lot of critics included, went into this wanting to hate this movie, but also went into this with the idea of no matter if it's the best of the franchise or somewhere in the middle, I'm going to give it a low score because of the outside stuff, the controversy, which we talked about up top. And listen, I have nothing but respect and admiration to those and I'm not going to watch this film for their own personal reasons. But then the critics, and non-critics included, that decide to watch this with that in mind, that they hate what was handled with Marissa and all that stuff. But then they still decided to watch the movie, and they knew they weren't going to like this movie. Even if they liked it, they're not going to admit they liked it. It makes me kind of, as a critic, it just makes me upset that people in our profession would do that. But another conversation for another day. I just wanted to say this is not the worst film in the franchise. But what does that mean? So I said that there's 3 things I look for as a fan of this franchise. A good opening kill, damn near great if it could be possible. Good characters, and a good like a good reveal to who the killer is, right? Or no, take that back. It was good opening, good kills, and a good reveal to the killers. And then if I can get a good story, if I can care for the characters, those are just added bonuses, right? It's kind of the bare minimum for any movie, but that's what I go into these films to have a good time, because I love this franchise. Right below Halloween, it's my second favorite horror franchise of all time, and Saw and Friday the 13th and Freddy and all that round out my top 5. But neither here nor there. Let's go, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm just going to go by those parameters, and I'm going to get more into depth with the review. Opening kill. The idea around the opening kill is fun, is interesting. I like the actors involved. There's beats that I like in the opening scene, but it just was kind of flat, if I'm being honest, when it comes to the actual kills and how it ties into the overall story. The opening scene let me down. Now, going to the next part of the kills in this movie, I am a believer that Scream 4 is the most brutal film in the franchise, and I would say 6 is kind of up there, and then, of course, the original and the sequel follow along. The kills in this movie, damn near some of the most brutal kills in the franchise, which in my opinion puts it like up there with 4. There's a kill at a bar involving beer that was pretty creative and pretty damn gruesome. Like, it is up there with Scream 4 as far as the brutality. And there's other kills, one involving a stage play that I really enjoyed and thought was bloody as hell and gruesome as hell. And yeah, the kills were pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie. Now, again, I'm mixing the good with the bad. I'll talk about this later when I talk about my criticisms, but I talked about have a good killer reveal. The worst killer reveal in the franchise. The worst motivations in the franchise. The worst killers in the franchise. And I'll just leave it at that, and we'll talk about that in my criticisms. But going back to the positives of this movie, I got to say again, the kills were really impressive. Some of them were a little lackluster, like I said, the opening kill. And even within that bar scene, there's a kill that was just like, oh, that's kind of quick and uneventful. This is a post-edit. As I was driving home, I was thinking about this to elaborate more on the kills, but particularly the Ghostface. Again, as I'll talk about later, I did not like the Ghostface reveal, very similar to Scream 6, but I love the Ghostface. This might sound silly as hell, but the way that the Ghostface moved in this film was very much like a ghost. The games of cat and mouse, where they are, where they aren't, where they lurk in the shadows, like very ghost vibes. I was a big fan of the Ghostface. Again, as I'll talk about later, I just didn't like the Ghostface reveal. But again, I like the kills. There's a Kevin Williamson, who's the director of this film, and if you're a fan of the franchise, you know that name. He's the writer of Scream 1, 2, 4, and, next to Wes Craven, is one of the more integral parts as far as the behind the scenes and the making of this. Kevin Williamson is a innovative, fun director when it comes to building suspense. There's some really decent jump scares. Again, the brutality was surprisingly really high and very pleasing. But Kevin Williamson, I think as a director, that's not his best suit. I don't think that's his strong suit. I think he's a better writer than he is a director. But I will say, when Kevin leans into the things I like about Scream, I thought there was a lot of fun to be had in that department. Performance-wise, I thought Neve Campbell gave one of her better performances in the franchise. I think the Sidney train is kind of coming to an end, because I think they've given her a lot at this point. Is kind of feeling repetitive, except for the part of her having her daughter being involved and seeing her interact with the husband and her being a mom and protecting her daughter. It had interesting moments. Unfortunately, I found the chemistry between the mom and the daughter to be very on the nose, but also just didn't really go anywhere and really didn't work for me. But I will say, again, individually speaking, I really enjoyed Neve Campbell. And individually speaking, I liked her daughter as like this new addition, just 2.0 of a Final Girl. Like, the acting was a little spotty at times, but when she was engaged in the action, I really believed in those scenes, and she really plays into the adrenaline, the tension. Like, I thought, again, individually, Neve was good, her daughter was good, but when they were paired together, didn't really work. Other positives, I like the core 4 from 5 and 6, so that comes with Chad and Mindy. They were them, but just not in the right movie. And what I mean by that is the rest of the core 4, like their blend of their comedy and satire and commentary on the meta-ness of what's going on, it works better in that iteration of 5 and 6. It didn't really play well in this one for me. But again, this is like the mix and match. I liked them, but not in this movie and how they were used. The Gale of it all, Courteney Cox, obviously one of the OGs. She was kind of, she was there. She's in the film, but then like they give her something which I actually liked, like speaking to like the trauma, the physicality of what she's been through all these films. Like they actually touch on that, but it doesn't go anywhere. And then she's just kind of forgotten about and just kind of left behind and used as like a punchline and kind of the comic relief, which she's been obviously the comic relief in this franchise. But I just thought that there was a lot more to explore, especially her dealing with her drama with losing Dewey, right? But again, I'm kind of indifferent with Gale, but I'm leaning more towards the negative than I am positive with her. Other than that, I'm trying to think of any other, like, I want to express, there's like some really thrilling, suspenseful, again, I can't stress enough, the kills were really innovative and really fun to me, but I really can't stress enough that I felt like the film just couldn't get over the hump. There's like certain elements that this film does that I just felt like, man, if we really would have had something to say, something to offer, something new, something fresh to add, this could have been really fun. Get into my criticisms here. There's an AI element about this film that I don't want to give too much away. I felt that was, as we know, Scream has a lot of meta commentary with sequels, prequels, reboots, what it has to say about the obsession that we have as people, violence. Like it always has something to say in that angle. But this time around, they're touching on AI, and I don't like what they do with the AI because it doesn't really fit into like what Scream offers in commentary, in meta-ness of the horror genre. That stuff really fell flat to me. But speaking of falling flat, I cannot stress enough the ending of this film, the reveals in this film, the motives of the characters were probably a franchise low. I didn't like the reveal in 6. I didn't really like the reveal in 3. Everything else was pretty solid for me as far as the killers in the franchise, but this has the worst killers of any film of the entire franchise. It literally brings this entire score down for me because at that point in the film, when we get that moment, I'm like, okay, there's some energy, there's some fun to be had, but then once we get to the last 15 minutes or so, 10 to 15, it really brings this film down. And then as far as other criticisms, there's some characters I really didn't care for. Like if I'm being honest, the old school with the new school didn't really mash well. Like the new group of characters, like Sidney's daughter's friends, actors I like, actors I enjoy, both young Mckenna Grace and the one girl that was in Ghostface. Like I like them as actors, but they didn't really do much. They weren't interesting. They weren't fun. They didn't really have chemistry. So all the new elements, besides her daughter, again, I liked her daughter, but the husband was like he was terrible. He was a waste of space, if I'm being honest with you. And the way they handle him was very uninteresting. But it really boils down to, this is a really the definition of a mixed bag. But I can't stress enough, this is not the worst film in the franchise, man. Like if you think this is the worst film in the franchise, you haven't seen Scream 3. Or if you have, you haven't seen it in decades. And this is a fine film. It's not great. Don't get me wrong. It's not terrible. It's a fine Scream movie. It has, like, you got to think about this, guy. This is the 30 years that this franchise has been going on. 7 films in the franchise. There's a formula, and I think when the film's at its best, it taps into that formula. But when it steps out of it, again, the Kevin Williamson of it all, it doesn't have that punch. It doesn't have nothing to say in regards to, again, the meta-ness of nostalgia, and AI doesn't go anywhere. I want to speak more about the AI because it involves a certain returns of characters, but if you guys haven't been following the film, I don't want to give that away, but that stuff didn't work. I want to say it what I want to say. There's a part of the AI that was fun, but it's the context and how it's used didn't work for me because it didn't add up to anything. So this is the definition to me of a mixed bag, but I'm right now feeling like this is like a 3 out of 5 movie. It sticks to the formula at times. It has good parts like Sidney, like the kills. The daughter's a good final girl. But that ending and those killers and the reveal and the motivation is piss poor. I'm at a 3. I'm going to sleep on this. I'm going to probably do like a spoiler discussion and get into the nitty gritty. But right now, I feel confident at giving Scream 7 a 3 out of 5. I'm going to do a ranking in the coming days. Like I said, it's not the worst. Somewhere in the middle, but we'll get into that conversation in the coming days. But let me know what you all thought of Scream 7, what worked, what didn't work. What did you think about the kills, the reveals? Scream 8, I guess we'll talk about that in the spoiler review. Where do they go next? Let's talk about it in the comments below. like, share, comment, consider subscribing. And I will see you guys pretty soon. Like I said, I'm going to do a rankings video and then a spoiler discussion. So subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. Again, thank you all for watching this review. It is not the worst in the franchise. Certainly isn't the best, but it's somewhere in the middle. But again, we'll talk about that further in the coming days. Hope you all are staying safe, and I'll see you again soon.